This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You are watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Now, I was thinking of something earlier on, and I'd love you guys to have your input on this one, to correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, or potentially give me some additional ones that I haven't put in this video. And I was thinking about the fact that Sky Sports and Eddie Hearn, they usually average 4, maybe 5 pay-per-views per year. But Eddie Hearn has done a very good job, and whether you like him or whether you don't, he's done a very good job of manoeuvring a lot of his fighters into a position where they could potentially be on pay-per-view fights this year. And I'm going to discuss some of them. Obviously, drop your thoughts below, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. So, a lot of us, we moan about how many pay-per-views that there are. But I'm predicting that 2019, we're probably going to see a record number of pay-per-views here in the UK on Sky Sports, as well as the ITV and of course BT Sport. But I'm not going to talk about ITV, BT Sport too much. I'm just going to talk about the Sky Sports one, okay? Because if you look at it this way, Anthony Joshua, his pay-per-view doesn't matter who he fights. He could fight the Milkman, okay? And he will be on pay-per-view, whether it's UK-based or US-based. It will be pay-per-view. So potentially, if he does fight Big Baby Jarrell Miller and it's in America, it's still going to be pay-per-view here in the UK. You can guarantee it. Plus whatever fight he has next. So he's going to be fighting twice. So that's 2 pay-per-views guaranteed right there. Another one, Dillian WHyte is now a pay-per-view fighter. Like it or not, he is. And personally, I like that he is. Okay, and if you look at potential opponents for Dillian WHyte, Dominic Breazeale, that would be a pay-per-view fight. Big Baby Jarrell Miller, that will also be a pay-per-view fight. Luis Ortiz, Alexander Usyk, potentially a Klitschko is pay-per-view. Okay? So, Dillian WHyte, he's a very active fighter. He doesn't like sitting around. He likes to get out. So, you're looking at him coming out at least 3 times this year. All of it could be on pay-per-view. And I'm actually going to do a separate video on something that, with Dillian WHyte and the relationship with him and Eddie Hearn, which I'm going to do pretty soon. So, keep your eye on that one as well. So, that's 5 pay-per-views. Okay? Of course, Dillian WHyte will have to win the very first 2 of those, and that's no easy task against any of those names that I've just given you, okay? So that's 5 pay-per-views just there. Let's look at the other ones that are being talked about. Callum Smith has been manoeuvred into a position where he won the World Boxing Super Series, he's the WBC Silver Champion or Diamond Champion, and he's also the Super WBA Champion. Now, for Callum Smith to be pay-per-view, he does need a good name in the other corner. He can't just fight anybody. And potentially it could be a Triple G, that's being talked about. Could be a Canelo, that is also being talked about. If either of those fights happen, it's going to be on pay-per-view. You can guarantee it, it will be. Again, some of these fights, you could say, well, I'm not too happy about that being pay-per-view, but if the undercard's on is good on it, why not? Also, Anthony Crolla has been moved into a position where he's now mandatory for Vasyl Lomachenko. That fight, you can pretty much guarantee, will be pay-per-view, especially if they can convince Lomachenko to come to the UK. You know that Sky and Eddie Hearn are going to put that on pay-per-view, because they won't be able to afford to pay Lomachenko to come to the UK and not put it on pay-per-view. So there's another one. Let's look at Kell Brook. Kell Brook was a pay-per-view fighter. 2018, not. Okay? But he's now been back in a position where he's mandatory for Jarrett Hurd. If they can convince Jarrett Hurd to come to the UK, then, as Jarrett Hurd said he's willing to, Kell Brook versus Jarrett Hurd for the unification for Jarrett Hurd's 2 belts, that will be pay-per-view. You know that they will have to put that on pay-per-view in order to pay Kell Brook good money plus Jarrett Hurd. Also, maybe Kell Brook, he could potentially fight Tony Harrison, the WBC 154-pound champion. Not necessarily a pay-per-view, but for the kind of money that they're going to convince Harrison to come to the UK, as Harrison said he's willing to come to the UK and fight him, they're going to have to put it on pay-per-view. Or if Charlo gets a rematch with Harrison, beats him, and Charlo versus Kell Brook, that could also be pay-per-view. Maybe Kell Brook can fight the winner of Spence and Garcia, or Pacquiao, Broner, Keith Thurman, or maybe a Liam Smith. You can guarantee Kell Brook will at least 1 time this year be pay-per-view, potentially 2 if he was to win the first one, right? Amir Khan versus Terence Crawford. We know that fight is pretty much set to be announced now, and Bob Arum is looking to have this fight on Sky Sports pay-per-view. So big up Rob for letting me know about that one. So that's the UK fighters from Matchroom point of view. There could be another couple that I haven't thought of right now. But in addition to the fact that they do have some overseas fights. With Canelo being part of the zone, Sky Sports will get first refusal if he has a Triple G Part 3 rematch. And Sky Sports elect to take that rematch, then they will put it on pay-per-view on Sky. So you're talking probably around about 9, maybe 10 potential pay-per-views this year, not including what ITV are going to be doing or BT Sport are going to be doing. That's a lot of pay-per-views, isn't it? But all of them very, very good fights. And all of them possible. As I said, you got Anthony Joshua 2 times. You got Dillian WHyte 3 times. If Callum Smith can get Triple G or Canelo, that's 6 fights. Anthony Crolla versus Lomachenko. We know Eddie Hearn's trying to get Lomachenko to the UK. That's 7 fights. Kell Brook against a Jarrett Hurd, for example. That's another fight. Amir Khan against Crawford, if that happens. That's another one. Especially if Amir Khan wins that fight and gets a fight in the UK. Again, that's another pay-per-view. Pay-per-views I'm expecting, I'm predicting to go through the roof in 2019. So prepare yourselves, save your pennies, because I think 2019 is going to be a very, very expensive year for boxing fans here in the UK. Drop your thoughts below, click the thumbs up, and of course subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.